Hi, my name is Jeff Olson, and welcome to the abridged version of The Slight Edge. It's really an honor to have an opportunity to talk to you before you listen to the reading of The Slight Edge. This is something that's been a labor of love for myself, and it comes from a lot of experiences I've had in my life. I've been very fortunate in life as I've worked for different companies, built different companies, been the CEO of a company, built large direct sales companies. Through those experiences, I've seen a lot of things that work, and I've seen a lot of things that don't work. And what I've done through time has always kind of been a student of what makes that happen, and that really is the product that created the book, The Slight Edge. What I'd like to do now is give you some insights to The Slight Edge, how I see it, but more importantly, right now I'd like to just describe how it came about. I think if you kind of have that frame of reference as you go through the reading of The Slight Edge, you'll have the insights and the awareness and the kind of the framework to understand what we're trying to do to make The Slight Edge work for you. It began with me after all the experiences I had in life. I was very, very fortunate in my life, and I was put in a position where I was the founder and the CEO and chairman of a company that turned out to be one of the largest personal development companies in North America. And what this was a TV channel that was connected to a direct sales force. And with that, what we did is we produced information that could change people's lives. Things about your family, your finance, your health, relationships, careers, sales. Any information that you needed to build your life, we created and we produced that and we put it on a TV channel 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. At the other end, we had a direct sales force, and these are people I called the choir, people who really believed in personal development. We connected the two to create a company that would take information to people, and so that was our goal. Through this process, two things I learned about information. It was very interesting. I started sitting back, and here we are, the biggest producers of personal development information. We could put it in somebody's house 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So in essence, we had really maximized the ability to take information using technology and to get it into people's homes. So there's a simple question. Think about this. If information and technology was the answer, would you not agree all the problems we have would be fixed right now? Matter of fact, there's more information today available than there's ever been. There's more technology to get that information to people than there's ever been. So if information and technology was the answer, there would be no problems. There would be no financial problems. There would be no relationship problems. There would not be any health problems. But that's not the case. The fact is, from a health standpoint, obesity has grown 3 or 4-fold in just the last 20 years. Finances are worse now than they've ever been. We're saving less money today as a society than we've ever have. Relationships have been falling apart at a rate over the last 20 years like we've never seen before. But yet at the same time, information and technology has grown 10, 20-fold. And so my question is, if information and technology is the answer, would you not agree it'd be going the other direction? Well, the fact is, there's something that makes information and technology work. Think about this. If information and technology was the answer, what I'd do is I'd walk up to, say, an alcoholic. I give that alcoholic Alcoholics Anonymous CD. I say, congratulations, you're no longer an alcoholic. Because what I did is I took information and I gave it to him through technology. But if that was the answer, he would be fixed, right? Well, that's not the answer. What makes information work is that when you put it in the proper environment and associations. What makes Alcoholics Anonymous works is not because you just give them the information and technology. You have to have that expands it for them, but you have to change their environment and associations. So that was my first goal. The first thing I learned in building that company is it wasn't just good enough to get information in people's hands. It wasn't just good enough to use technology to expand people's awareness. You had to put people in the proper environment and proper associations to make it work. So that was number one. And that was really the beginning of my thought process for The Slight Edge. After that, the other thing I learned, and this is very, very interesting, here we were with all this information technology, driving it into people's minds, put them in the proper environment associations to absorb that information. But again, I'd watch these people, the sales force, people who were believers, or again, what I called the choir. What I saw is for many, many, many of them, actually most of them, it still didn't work because what they didn't have, in my opinion, was a processor. And that was really where the Slight Edge came from. They did not have the ability to take that information, even in the proper environment associations, and process the information in a way to make it work. Because here was the problem. Everybody talking to them was talking to them from a quantum leap standpoint. What I mean by that, they're trying to show them the fastest way to solve the problem. And that makes sense because if you want to sell something, if you want to sell a book or a tape or a seminar, what are you going to tell people? We're going to show you the slow way to success? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to tell them we got the answer with a quantum leap answer. And really what it does is it violates the natural harmony of how life works. When you think about it, there is a natural harmony in everything, how it works. You plant your seeds, then you cultivate, and then you harvest. The sad thing is what everybody's doing is trying to tell you, you plant your seeds and then you cultivate. What the book The Slight Edge is all about is, yes, you have to plant your seeds, and yes, there will be a harvest, but there is a cultivating process, and that anybody can do it, and their quantum leap is not the answer. The answer is doing the easy things, the simple little things, and doing them consistently over a period of time, over a long enough period of time to make it work for you. And here's what I found out, and this was an interesting thing I learned from a gentleman named Jim Rohn, and I reflect off Jim Rohn a lot in the book The Slight Edge. He said there's, everything to be successful in life is easy to do. He also said that it's easy not to do. And I found that very interesting. If it's easy to be successful, why are most people not successful? Because it's easy not to be successful. What he talked about is all the time you have decisions you have to make. And what successful people do is they make the simple little decisions, the simple little disciplines, make those decisions consistently over a long enough period of time, so literally the compounded effect kicks in. What most people do, though, is they make the simple error in judgments. They take those decisions, things that they can do that are easy for them to do, but they make that simple decision not to do it because they believe it doesn't matter at that moment in time. And that's what the book The Slight Edge is all about, is that your decisions do matter. Every decision you make every single day does matter. Every decision does compound either up or down. Every decision is either going to take you to success or it's going to take you to failure. And it's happening every single second of the day. And so that's what the book The Slight Edge is all about. You see, what I have found through my experiences and observations is that most people live what I call an action-oriented life. And that's good. You got to be in action. You got to be in movement to be successful. Everything that's directed at you, all advertisements are about action. All books and tapes that you read or listen to are about action. But the truth is, if it's just action-oriented, what we do is we tell you how to be successful. We just tell you how to be healthy. We just tell you how to have relationships. We tell you how to have financial independence, and it would happen. But there's two things that have to happen before the actions work for you. And this is very, very important. And again, this is the foundation to the Slight Edge. And what I mean by that, to be successful, you have to have good philosophies, first of all. Philosophies is everything you know. It's everything you know, how you hold it, how it affects how you think, and how it affects what you do. Your philosophies will turn into your attitude. If you have good philosophies, you'll have a good attitude. Your attitude then direct your actions. Now we're at actions. If you have a good attitude, you have good actions. Good actions turn into good results, and good results turn into a good lifestyle. So think about it. If somebody has positive philosophies, again, that comes from the books you read, the tapes you listen to, and probably most importantly, the people you associate with. You have good philosophies that will turn into a positive attitude. That will turn into positive actions, which turn into positive results, positive lifestyle. But if things aren't happening for you, if somebody's out there and they're going through the actions, they're doing the actions they're supposed to do to have success, but they're not having success, usually if you look backwards, what you'll find is they don't have good philosophies. They don't have good information driving the way they think. It's turning into a negative attitude, and they're taking that attitude and doing the actions wrong. Those actions are turning into bad results, turning into a bad lifestyle. So what I've always suggested to everybody, and this is real critical, what the Slight Edge is all about is getting you to create this processor so you can take this information, this abundance of information that's available. There's more information, again, today than there's ever been. There's more access to information through technology than there's ever been. And taking that information and making it work for you. But to make that happen, you have to have what I call, again, the processor, or you have to have what I call the philosophy and attitude. The Slight Edge is a philosophy. It's a way of looking at information and processing that information so that you have a good attitude that now takes those actions and turn them to good results. It's always been very interesting for me to see seemingly two very, very similar people. And I've seen this over and over in corporate America, small business America, and businesses I've owned and businesses I've run. I've seen people very, very similar to each other, having the same product, the same company, the same opportunity. They're being trained in the same actions. They basically have the same ability to do the same actions. One person takes those same actions in the same marketplace, the same product, the same company, and they have success with it. And the other one takes the exact same thing, seemingly the same quality of a person, and they don't have success. And what you'll find is if you back up and look at those two different people, you'll find one of them has based their life on positive philosophies, positive books, positive tapes, positive associations. That's created a positive attitude. The other person has made a bad Slight Edge decision. They've made a decision that information really doesn't matter, that that the people they associate with doesn't matter, and it's turned into a negative attitude. They don't even know it exists. That attitude affects their actions. It's so slight you can't even see it, but eventually that compounds over time, turns into bad results, and they have a bad lifestyle. So again, really the slide edge has really been a slide edge evolvement for myself. What I mean by that, it's come from a lot of observations, a lot of things I've seen that work, have not worked. When I started that company, that personal development company, and built that TV channel, my goal was to change people's awareness, to give them more access and awareness to information and use technology to get it to them. As I did that, I realized that environment associations were as important as access to information and technology. But as I went through that process, then I realized really, quite honestly, even with people who willingly wanted the information, who were part of the choir, who really believed in the information, and would have give it to them directly, they still didn't have the processor because they had been trained over time by society, by marketing, by advertising to look for the quantum leap. And that's what led to the slide edge. And that is everything you need to do to be successful. It's easy to do. It's easy not to do. What successful people, they do the simple little things that seem to make no difference at all in the act of doing them. And they exercise those simple disciplines, and they just do them over and over and over and over till the compounded effect kicks in and it leads them to success. What unsuccessful people do is they make that simple error in judgment. They think it doesn't matter when they make that decision. They think it doesn't matter when they don't do something that day that they should do. Now, what they don't realize is that simple error in judgment compounded over time does make a difference and can take you in the wrong direction. So that's what the book's all about. It's about actions. It's about the processor. It's about the slightest decision, that every decision you make every single day does matter. As I talk about these decisions you have to make, one of the foundations for making good decisions is having good knowledge. Here's what I found in everything that we all go through. Everything that you become successful in or not successful in, at one point in time, you have to start. You have to start the process. And what I found is anytime you're starting something, that's really when you're your lowest level of knowledge, your highest level of anxiety. And the goal is to move your knowledge up, your anxiety down. Just think about any time you've gone to work for somebody. Those first 90 days, you're kind of in the fog, you're in the clouds because your knowledge is low. And as your knowledge goes up, your anxiety comes down. And here's what I found. There's a simple 4-step process for increasing your knowledge and reducing your anxiety. And why this is important to Slide Edge is because the slide edge is about making decisions. And when you make decisions, it's about making good decisions. Good decisions affects your knowledge. Bad decisions affects your knowledge also. And the question you have to ask yourself, do you want to have good knowledge growing or do you want to have bad knowledge? Your knowledge can grow. If it's bad knowledge, it's not going to really relieve your anxiety. It's going to create more anxiety. So you have to have, again, another processor, something in your brain that's teaching you all the time how to grow your knowledge. And so I've gone through a 4-step process. The first one is what I call learned knowledge. It's pretty obvious. You need to learn about whatever you're trying to do. You need to read the books. You need to listen to the tapes. You need to talk to the people. You need to learn the information. That's kind of an obvious one, but we have to go through learned knowledge. Now, learned knowledge leads to probably one of the most difficult ones, and that is activity knowledge. That is doing the activity. In this book, I'll reference a great philosopher. His name was Emerson. Emerson said something I've always thought was great. He said, do the thing, you'll have the power. He didn't say, I'm going to give you the power to go do the thing. He said, do the thing. He said, what he's meaning is you learning the activity. Do the thing, and you have the power. What most people want to do is, you give me the power, and I'll go do the thing. Or in essence, you tell me what exactly to do, and I'll go do it. Well, Watson, the founder of IBM, he said the key to success is to double your rate of failure. Literally, you have to fail your way to the top. But what most people do is they sit there, they go through learned knowledge. I've seen this so many times. And then all of a sudden, they don't transfer learned knowledge to activity knowledge because they live in fear. Matter of fact, later on in this book, when you're listening to the reading, there's going to be a story about the funeral. And it's a very great story. I really want you to pay attention when it comes up because it talks about how we live in our comfort zone and how we worry about what other people think. And the story was something that changed my life many, many, many years ago. And what it did is it allowed me to take my learned knowledge and turn it into activity and quit fearing rejection, quit fearing failure. Because if you do that, you'll never get going. And so learned knowledge, number one, you have to have that, but then eventually you have to turn it into activity knowledge. And here's the thing, it's interesting, these work hand in hand with each other. You learn something, then you go out and do the activity, then you go back and learn again, then you go back and do the activity. It's kind of like learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, and you kind of step your way up the ladder. You can't just go from the bottom to the top in knowledge just by learning. You just can't study. And you can't just go to the top by just doing the activity. You can't just do the activity and not have the knowledge. And so it's learn knowledge, activity knowledge, back to learn knowledge, back to activity knowledge. And it's always been very interesting. I can take a book and read a book, and I can put it on my shelf. I can come back and read that exact same book a year later, and it's as if somebody snuck into my place, rewrote the book, because what's happened to me is I've gone out in life's experience has affected me, the activities I've gone through, so that I go back and reference the same book I read a year ago, it's different. So I'm stepping up the ladder. I can take the exact same book and go from learn knowledge to activity, go back to that same book, learn knowledge, and I go back to a higher activity. So learn knowledge and activity knowledge work hand in hand. And what that leads to, and this is very, very important for being successful, is modeling knowledge. What you have to do is you go through this, you want to model people who are being successful in what you're doing. You don't want to model people who've not been successful. And believe me, the people who are not successful, they will surround you and try and convince you that what they're doing is right because they want to keep you where they're at. You have to seek out truly the people who are having successful. I call it the laws of association. It's very, very important. You are the combined average of the 5 people you associate with the most. You cannot have positive philosophies if everybody you're hanging around with has negative philosophies. You can't have positive attitudes if the people you associate with have negative attitudes. You can't be on a positive slide edge direction if everybody around you is on a negative slide edge direction. So, you're going through your learned knowledge, your activity knowledge, but you need to be modeling people who are positive. You need to be modeling people who have been successful. So the third one is modeling knowledge. And it leads to the fourth one. If you're ever really going to be successful in life, it's going to be your ability to inspire other people. Those are the people who really make it big in life. They inspire other people. And I've always had a saying, the definition of a leader is the ability to get somebody to do something they wouldn't have done if you had not been there. It's not to be a cheerleader, it's to inspire somebody to do something they would not have done if you had not been there. And that leads to the fourth aspect of knowledge, and that is teaching knowledge. Now, here's the problem. Everybody wants to go from learn knowledge to become the teacher. I'll study it and then I want to go out and tell everybody what to do. Well, they don't want to do the activity themselves. What you have to do is you have to learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity knowledge, until you are worthy of being modeled. That's the key word there. Till you're worthy of being modeled. Once you're worthy of being modeled yourself, when people are modeling off of you, you become the teacher. You can't just go from learn knowledge to teaching. You're not worthy of it at that time. And so learn knowledge, number one, tied into activity. They work hand in hand with each other. You do those over and over until you become worthy of being modeled. As soon as you become worthy of being modeled, you become the teacher, and that's when everything will explode for you. So what I like to do now is kind of try and bring it all together. How do you take having access to information, using information technology, being in the right environment associations, like I was talking about modeling, having the processor to take that information and increase your knowledge and make good decisions, okay? So I want to talk kind of a broad base about the slide edge before you get into the reading of the slide edge. Again, as I said earlier, it's interesting. You take 2 similar people, have them doing the exact same actions, and one person has success and the other one doesn't. And I want to talk about that because here's what I found. There's some differences between those 2 people. And one of the biggest ones is people who end up being successful, they take responsibility for their actions. They take full responsibility, even sometimes when it doesn't seem fair. When it seems like somebody's done something wrong to you, they take responsibility for whatever that is. Because understand this, anytime you start to blame, and that's what the other people do, they blame, as soon as you blame, you give up control. Do you understand that? Even when you probably are right in blaming somebody else, you give up control because you give the power to that person. What successful people do is they take responsibility for the decisions they make. They take a responsibility how those decisions affect themselves. What unsuccessful people do is they're constantly blaming somebody else. They're constantly saying it's not my fault. They're constantly living in a state of neglect. They're not doing what you have to do to be successful. Here's another interesting thing. You take those 2 people going through life, with the one person who ends up being successful, following the slide edge, he will live probably an uncomfortable life at first because he's making decisions that are uncomfortable compared to what everybody else is doing. But the person who lives uncomfortable first, later in life becomes comfortable. But on the other side, that person who lives in blame and neglect, who kind of conforms to society, they're comfortable because they're doing what everybody else does. But eventually, later in life, they become uncomfortable. What you'll see is successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. What successful people do is they live out of their comfort zone. And what successful people do is they live where the opportunity is at. And that's really what the slide edge is all about. It's about, making those right decisions. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. Slide edge is about getting out of your comfort zone, making decisions that take you in the right direction versus the decisions that everybody else makes, the ones that society kind of pushes on us that takes you in the wrong direction. And the slide edge is all about living where the opportunities act. The opportunity is created in the moment of decision. Through the day, you're going to make decisions, hundreds and not thousands of decisions. And you're going to make a decision that's going to make a difference going forward positively or going negatively. And these decisions compounded over time make a difference. But every one of these decisions really doesn't matter in the moment. And I'll give you some examples. Let's just take diet or health. I'm a health fanatic. Anybody around me knows that. I don't understand why you would not care about your health, because if you don't have health, you can't enjoy everything else in life. And so it seems to me it matters what you eat. It seems to me it matters that you exercise. It seems to me it should matter about your health. The sad thing is most of us really don't. I referenced it earlier. Type 2 diabetes is exploding. Obesity has exploded fourfold over the last 20 years. It's really amazing to me that those things could happen when there's more information today about health than there's ever been. There's more access to the information just on the internet than there's ever been. There's more infomercials on health than there's ever been. There's more products on health than there's ever been. But at the exact same time, we're going the wrong direction. And so let me give you an example how the slide edge works when we talk about health. Even though there's more information than there's ever been, more access to information than there's ever been, why are people not becoming more healthy in our society? Think about this. You take two people. One person's on the positive side of slide edge. The other person's making the bad decisions. They're on the negative side of the slide edge. The person, number one, they make a decision to eat a good food. We all know what good food is. It's good vegetables. It's quality proteins. It's quality carbs. It's quality fiber. It's quality food. Okay, they make a decision to say eat a salad with a quality piece of protein in it. The other person make a decision to eat a pizza at that time. Now, is there really any difference between the two of them in that moment in time? The person that eats the salad, do they become just healthy at that moment? No. So the person that eats the pizza, do they just immediately become fat or become unhealthy in that moment? No. What happens is there's no difference between those two in that moment. And that is really the thing that fools most people, because they think it doesn't matter. That bad decision I just made doesn't matter. But guess what? You dig your grave with your teeth. Those simple errors in judgment that you make over time, compounded over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you literally dig your grave with your teeth. On the other side, that same person who's making that simple positive decision, making a decision to eat good food when other people are eating bad food, and the fact is today, more people eat bad food than they ever have with fast food and processed food. One person ends up having a healthy life, the other person ends up having a very unhealthy life. It's a slide edge decision. It makes no difference in the act of doing it in that moment, but successful people, again, they understand those little decisions they make matter. They make the simple decisions over and over and over and over until the compounded effect kicks in and takes them to success. Unsuccessful people make the simple error judgments over time. I came with a statement a long time ago called master the mundane. What I found successful people, what they do is they master the mundane decisions. Decisions don't seem to matter at the moment making them. Take person number one again. They make a decision to go out and walk for 30 minutes. Now, again, pretty much anybody can do that. That's easy to do. But it's also easy not to. It's easy to come up with all the reasons you don't walk 30 minutes in a day, but everybody can do it. It's easy to do. It's easy not to. Now, one person walked for 30 minutes in one day. Are they healthy that day? No, they're not. The other person doesn't walk. Are they unhealthy that day? No, they're not. But that simple error of judgment compounded over time will make them unhealthy versus that simple discipline over time will make them healthy. Think about, learn knowledge, get information to your head. What I'm talking about, say just reading. When I say read, I don't mean you have to go in the library and read every single positive book there is there. Matter of fact, that'd be impossible to do. I'm talking about a simple slide edge decision. Let me give you a great example. Reading 10 pages of a good book a day. Is that easy to do? That's easy to do. Anybody can do it. If you can't read, there's somebody that loves you enough to read to you. But it's easy not to do. And here's the thing. When you don't read your 10 pages of that book that day, does that change you that day? No. When you read 10 pages of a good book that day, does it make you successful? No. But that simple discipline, that simple slide edge decision, using that processor, that simple decision to read 10 pages of a good book a day, guess what happens? Over a year, 365 days, that's 3,650 pages. Depending on the book, that's about 15 to 20 books. I can take anybody and massively shift their philosophy and their attitude, which will affect their actions with 15 books. It's as simple as 10 pages a day, something that anybody can do. But when you do it that first day, it doesn't change you that day. But when you make that simple discipline over time, that simple slide edge decision over time, the compounded effect eventually kicks in. On the other side, Well, you don't read 10 pages of a good book one day. Does it really affect you that day? No, it doesn't. You're not unsuccessful. But that simple error judgment over time, compounding itself, and all of a sudden you're not successful. So 10 pages of a good book a day, anybody can do that. I'm talking about a good book, not a negative book. I'm talking about books that can affect your philosophy, which in turn affects your attitudes, which in turn affects your actions, which in turn affects your results, which creates you a good lifestyle. A simple slide edge thing is what you read. Think about tapes. I ask everybody to listen to 15 minutes of a good tape a day. 15 minutes. I'm talking about turning your car into a drive time university. Anybody can do. That's easy to do. It's easy not to. It's easy to just listen to the radio and listen to all the merchandising and marketing and actually, all the thing, pretty much of it negative that's been driven into your brain, or you can make a decision to listen to 15 minutes of good tape a day. When you listen to that tape for 15 minutes that day, does it change you that day? Not much. It might a little bit. If you don't listen, do you become a failure that day? No. But think about 15 minutes of a good tape a day over 365 days in a year, what that would do to you. It would have a massive, massive impact on your philosophies, which in turn would have a huge impact on your attitude. And now all of a sudden those actions that weren't working will start working. All of a sudden the things on your finances that weren't working will work. The things on your diet that weren't working will work. The things that were not working will work. The actions that you've been out there trying to make happen that weren't working will work because you have shifted your philosophy and your attitude. So those are slide edge decisions. The activities every day that you do matter. Activities as simple as who you associate with. You can get around a negative person. You don't think that affects you, but that simple error judgment over time, compounded, is very, very devastating to you. Again, I talked about laws of association. You hang around a positive person one day. Does that really affect you that much? A little bit. You're around a negative person one day. Does it really, wreck your life? Not much. But that simple error in judgment versus that simple discipline over time has a huge, huge impact in your life. And so what people understand, this slide edge is always working. Every decision you make is a slide edge decision. It's going to be a decision that over time compounded is going to take you to the top, or it's going to be a decision over time compounded is going to take you to the bottom. Every one of those decisions, in the moment you make them, in the moment of that decision, don't really matter that much, but the compounded effect of them over time makes all the difference. That's what the slide edge is all about, realizing that every decision you make is a slide edge decision. There's no such thing as a non-slide edge decision. Every decision you make, every single one you make every single day is either leading you positively or negatively. And don't think they don't matter. They do matter. And everything you do to be successful is easy to do and easy not to do. And there is no such thing as quantum leaps to the top. What successful people do is they do the little things that seem to make no difference at all in the act of doing them, and just do them over and over and over and over and over with persistency and consistency over a long enough period of time so the compound effect can kick in and take success. Whereas the people on the other side, they think the things just don't matter. They make those simple errors in judgment. They say it doesn't matter today. I didn't get unhealthy because I didn't walk today, so it doesn't matter. I didn't fail because I didn't read 10 pages of a good book today, so it doesn't matter. Those simple error judgments do matter. What successful people do is they understand the power of the slide edge and how it's working in every decision you make. Unsuccessful people, what they do is they don't realize that every decision they make does make a difference, and they understand that those negative decisions over time can compound and take you in the wrong direction. So again, as I've said before, what the slide edge is a philosophy. It's a way of approaching information. It's a way of changing your knowledge. It's a way of changing the decisions you make every single day. To me, thoughts are things. And that means your thoughts have to be developed. What you have to do is you have to develop that slide edge processor. It might not work perfectly at first, but over time you'll get to understand it. You'll get to see how it's working in your life. But here's something that's very, very important. You do not want to neglect the slide edge, because if you do, you eventually will fail. And here's one thing I've found. People who embrace the slide edge, who really follow it, it will have a huge impact on their life in the first year, but it have a massive impact on their life over the next 5 years. And beyond that, the difference, you can't even measure it. But here's the other side of that coin. People who don't understand this, do you realize it takes the rest of your life to fail? I really want you to listen to those words. It takes finding something you really want to do, applying the proper philosophies and attitudes through the slide edge, doing it consistently over a long enough period of time. That's what it takes to be successful. But if you don't do that, if you don't find something you want to do, if you don't apply the proper philosophies and attitudes which create the right actions, if you don't understand the slide edge and you don't do that, it takes the rest of your life to fail. So what I would rather do is embrace a philosophy, embrace information, embrace knowledge in a way that I know can work for me, because I know it's easy to do, again, but it's easy not to do. But if I find it and I apply myself consistently, remember, 10 pages of a good book a day, over a long enough period of time, I can be successful. But if I don't do that, it takes the rest of my life to fail. Again, remember, every day, you're making hundreds, if not thousands of decisions. Greatness is made in the moment of that decision. Every one of those decisions matter. And so, as you go through this Slide Edge reading, we're going to talk about a lot of things, and you're going to see how the Slide Edge works. And we kind of break it down into the momentum side of the Slide Edge, the completion side of the Slide Edge, the habit side, the Slide Edge, the reflection side, the Slide Edge, and then the celebration, because with anything you do, there should be celebration. And you'll believe me, if you do understand the Slide Edge and you apply it over a long enough period of time, there will be celebration. So there's a song I heard a long time ago called Closing Time. And in that song, they say it kind of like this. They say, every new beginning is another beginning's end. And that's a perfect example of how the Slide Edge starts. What I'm trying to say, it doesn't matter where you're at right now. It doesn't matter decisions you made up to this point in time. I'm a product of my past. I'm not a victim of my past. I can draw a line in the sand anywhere I'm at in any aspect of my life, and I can start making those good decisions, and I can make that other beginnings in a new beginning. And so with that, I invite you to listen to this abridged reading of the Slide Edge. Hope you enjoy it. I look forward to meeting you down the road. Thank you.